As we anticipate the election of a new pope, the Catholic faithful here in the Diocese of Springfield all feel the loss of Pope Francis, known as the People's Pope. We spoke with a few, and Steve Kiltonick has more on the Francis legacy.
Even before he appeared on March 13, 2013, for the first time before the crowd at St. Peter's Square, the world knew Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio of Argentina would be a very different type of pontiff. He was the first pope from the Southern Hemisphere, the first non-European elected in nearly 1,300 years, the first Jesuit, and the first member of any religious order elected in nearly 2 centuries. Bergoglio also became the first pope to take the name Francis, after St. Francis of Assisi, whom he called the man of poverty, the man of peace, the man who loves and protects creation.
Preghiamo per tutto il mondo, perché ci sia una grande fratellanza.
Kerry Weber, a graduate of the former Cathedral High in Springfield, is the executive editor of America Magazine.
When Francis's pontificate started, the very first thing he did was ask for everyone to pray for him, which was not something that was very commonly seen. There's a humility about him that I think makes him feel approachable and relatable as a leader. One of his strengths as a leader is that even though there was a lot of attention on him and his individual actions and his desire to live a simple life as a pope, he was doing it to direct us toward Jesus, not toward himself.
In 2022, Weber had the opportunity to interview Pope Francis in Rome with a group of colleagues from America Magazine.
It was a really wonderful experience because it was both very special, but also bizarrely felt very normal, right? Like he has this presence about him that makes you feel like, of course I should be sitting here with the Pope, right? Like, because we're all part of the church and we're just here together. And I think that's just a kind of attitude he's extended to the whole church in a lot of ways and made a lot of people feel very welcome.
That same welcomeness was extended to Springfield Bishop William Byrne, who met the Holy Father while in Rome during a new bishop's orientation several years ago.
For 2 hours, he sat with us, about 110 of us, and he talked, but he said, no, this is more for you to talk to me, ask questions. He was gracious and warm and welcoming, and so when I actually did meet him, it was a very brief meeting, but I have a photograph which really says it all, of just the warmth and the love that he looked at me and each one of the bishops.
As a Franciscan, Pope Francis's papacy was defined by his deep love for the poor, reminding the church that to help the poor is to see Jesus in every face. Francis even established the World Day for the Poor.
The legacy of Pope Francis, I think, is summed up in his call for us to go out to the peripheries, to go out to the edges and encounter people there. Not wait for them to come to us, but to go meet the poor, the marginalized, those who are in prison, those who are alien among us.
Pope Francis gave much attention to the rights of migrants and protection of the natural environment. In 2015, he released one of his 4 encyclicals, Laudato Si, which addressed care for the environment. A second encyclical, Fratelli Tutti, called for a renewed emphasis on human fraternity and social friendship, and addressed the importance of welcoming migrants and refugees, stating seeking a better life is a universal right. Francis visited over 60 countries during his pontificate, which reflected a dedication to a global church. Wherever he went, Pope Francis was received with a great deal of enthusiasm. But he also generated controversy, and at times confusion, when he spoke off the cuff to journalists on interreligious issues, the LGBT community, or conflict between countries. At his first press conference, Francis commented, "Who am I to judge?" when asked about homosexuality in the priesthood. The Vatican also hosted 5 synods or listening sessions. During one session, the non-liturgical blessing of same-sex couples was allowed.
One of the things that I think Pope Francis really offered the church was a space for difficult conversations. And maybe they weren't always started in the way everybody would have liked, but it meant that we were talking about things that were important to the church, to the world, and hopefully talking to each other.
During his visit to Rome, Bishop Byrne asked Francis how he should address the LGBT community despite theological challenges with certain aspects of that lifestyle.
He said, you know, everybody, tutto, are welcome into our church. He said, everybody, we just have to leave our flags outside, that we all meet inside as family, as brothers and sisters, as children of God seeking the mercy and love of God.
Michael McGravy is an assistant professor of religious studies at Elms College. The product of a Jesuit education, McGravy attended Canisius High School in Buffalo. He recalled the joy he felt the day Francis became Pope.
I remember friends and teachers just having a moment of shock to say, oh my gosh, we're connected to this. To see this person who comes from this humble origin of being a member of the Society of Jesus to then taking the lead as Pope, it'll stick with me forever.
McGravy discovered something unique in Pope Francis that set him apart from his predecessors.
He's really encouraged community among Catholics and then community in a religious dialogue. I find strength in the fact that he addresses more than just the religious aspects of our society, from everything from global climate change to the need to care for the least among us.
In 2015, Pope Francis visited the United States, where he became the first pope to address a joint session of Congress. He urged lawmakers, many of whom were also immigrants, to show more openness in accepting immigrants. Francis also spoke at the United Nations and convened a World Meeting of Families in Philadelphia, emphasizing his staunch support of marriage and the sacredness of every human life. While his legacy will be debated among Catholics and church hierarchy for years, there is no doubt that Pope Francis gave a new energy to millions of Catholics and reshaped the faith to make it more inclusive. He transformed the image of the pontificate into one of a pastoral minister, based on personal encounters and strong convictions on mission, poverty, immigration, and dialogue.
He has challenged us to love with the heart of Christ, to see with the eyes of our Lord, to be a community that welcomes, that serves, that loves, and that heals. We are called to be, as he said, the field hospital, of which we meet people to bring them healing. And that's what we're called to be as the Catholic Church.
It's fitting that Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope, will be laid to rest at his request in the Basilica of St. Mary Major in Rome, where St. Ignatius Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits, celebrated his first Mass as a priest and where Francis prayed more than 100 times during his pontificate. For Real to Real, I'm Steve Kiltonick.